Hi, I'm Zach. This is Challenger Vedic Astrology and Tarot. Welcome to the channel. So, today we're going to do something different. We're going to look at a birth chart. My first pick is going to be my favorite historical figure, Abraham Lincoln. And we're going to see why was he gay, along with a few other things. So, if you like my videos, be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out me and the channel. And if you'd like a Vedic Sidereal birth chart, a personal reading, or a consultation, the links to those will be in the description box and the comments below. Okay, so we're going to be doing a Vedic Sidereal Astrological analysis of Abraham Lincoln's chart. We're going to see why was he gay, along with a few other things. We'll briefly talk about his assassination. But yeah, so let's get into it, look at his chart, and see what we see. Alright, so here we are. Alright, first off, my face is in a new location. But putting it over the dashas because we're not really using those here. We are looking at the birth chart and the navamsa. So for those that don't know, the birth chart is the early life of a person up until their mid-30s. The D9 navamsa is the divisional chart that shows a person's later life. This is from like early 30s to the rest of your life. Okay. So, Abraham Lincoln, talking about why he was gay. Now, a few things that we see right off the bat. He has his Saturn in the nakshatra of Anuradha in the ascendant. His ascendant, AS, is Anuradha. And this gets even crazier when we look in the navamsa. He is once again an Anuradha ascendant with his Mars in Anuradha. So, very prominent Anuradha in his chart. Now, I haven't talked about Anuradha on this channel yet, so I'll talk about that. But he also has his Mercury in Satyabisha. Now, why are these important? These are nakshatras, or constellations. And both of them represent love triangles. So, in historical accounts, Abraham Lincoln was only in a relationship with one woman. His wife, Mary Todd. Now, he had no other romances with women. But he shared a bed in a bunkhouse with his best friend, a man named Joshua Speed. The other birth chart that we will be looking at. So, Anuradha is the nakshatra of karmic friendships, but also the constellation of love triangles. So there would have been a love triangle there, without a doubt, and he wasn't in relationships with other women. So we see it would have been a relationship with his wife, Mary Todd. This would have been before they got married, and with his best friend, Joshua Speed. Alright. But we also see other things here. So, let's look at other factors. Now, there are, well, let's see, Mercury and Satyabisha here. Satyabisha is the other constellation tied to love triangles. So we see that right off the bat. Now, also, there are two constellations tied to not being straight. Those are, or nakshatras. Those are Ashlesha and Dhanishta. Ashlesha is tied to Nagas. Nagas are mythological beings that can change their gender at will, or fall in love with any gender. And then Dhanishta is tied to not having children, one of the ways a person can do that is through same-sex relationship. Now, it doesn't mean if you have Denisha, you won't have kids. That's entirely different. Certain factors have to be there. But right off the bat, we already see some Denisha in his chart. He has Sun in Denisha. Now, he's not a Leo ascendant, so it's not a big deal. It's also not his Atmakarka, his soul significator. But his soul significator is conjunct that Sun in Denisha, so it is influenced by it. Now, when we look at his navamsa, though, his moon is in Denisha. So, moon is the mind, your emotions. Also a good example of, being able to have kids despite, having Denisha. Abraham Lincoln had a few kids, if I remember correctly. We're not focusing on that in this video, though. Alright, so we clearly see he has a nakshatra tied to being inclined for same-sex relationships. Now, it doesn't mean if you have Ashlesha and Denisha, you're for sure going to be LGBT. Doesn't mean that. Denisha is also tied to asexuality. So we also see that with this nakshatra. But that's besides the point for this video. Now, he shared a bed with this man, Joshua Speed, for 4 years. At a bunkhouse. Which was unusual, even for back then. Where, oftentimes men would sleep in bunkhouses together. It's basically the version of an inn back then. But to share a bed with one specific man for 4 years, that was very rare. Now, another thing we see is when Joshua Speed left Abraham Lincoln to go back home when his father died. He was going to take over his estate. Abraham Lincoln got into a fight with his girlfriend, Mary Todd, at the time. Now, when they had this fight, he had a mental breakdown and left to be with Joshua. Went to go see his best friend. So, Anuradha is also a nakshatra tied to mental health issues. So we clearly see, with his very prominent Anuradha, ascendant in Anuradha in early and later life, and Saturn in Anuradha, and Mars in Anuradha. First off, Saturn's a person's heaviest karma, so clearly there would have been mental health issues there. But what we also see with this is that love triangle playing out. So, as soon as this man was going to leave his life, he got in a fight with his girlfriend and went to be with him. That's very clear. There's lots of records on that. So, what else do we see? Well, for that, we're going to look at Joshua Speed's chart, which I've rectified. So, what we see immediately, we see constellations tied to love triangles. Now, we're not talking about outer planets. Uranus being in Anuradha here wouldn't do it. We have to look at the inner planets. So what do we see? His Saturn is in Satabisha in the Navamsa chart. So, strong karma with love triangles. Then his Ketu's in Anuradha. So, both are in constellations of love triangles. And Ketu is separation. So he would separate himself from a love triangle by moving away. Now, how do we see that he would be gay? or bisexual, or oh gosh, oh well. All right. So the way we see that is, let's see here, his ascendant. His ascendant nakshatra is Ashlesha. Remember, it's tied to Nagas. They could be attracted to any gender. This is the nakshatra tied to not being straight. It's tied to LGBT themes. And when you look at it, the opposite nakshatra of Ashlesha, from 23 degrees 20 arc minutes onward, becomes Dhanishta. So the spouse of a same-sex attracted person would also be a same-sex attracted person. Now, his degrees aren't 23-20, but that's another way that we see Ashlesha can be tied to same-sex relationships. Okay. So, that's all we were really looking at in Joshua's speed chart. But another thing we could see, he has his Mars in Jeshta. Jeshta is an over-sexual nakshatra. It is the most sexual nakshatra, to the point of cheating in relationships. So, he could have even, had affairs, on his spouse. Cheated on her. And Abraham Lincoln was in another relationship, so it could have been cheating there. Now let's go back to Lincoln's chart. Alright. In Lincoln's chart, we see his destiny point is Jeshta. So, Jeshta is, like I said, an over-sexual nakshatra. Shows cheating. Abraham Lincoln was in love with a man while he was dating a woman. So, we see cheating. Destiny point is a person's destiny. Also, that's what that BP stands for. It's the Brigabindu. Now, Jeshta is also a nakshatra of rising to a position of power and leadership. This is the nakshatra of the king of the gods, Indra. Abraham Lincoln became president of the United States. So, his destiny was to be like the king of the gods. Safe to say he accomplished that. Now, other things that we see in his chart, just looking around, seeing what we see, is Abraham Lincoln has his Rahu in Swati. So, Rahu is a person's desire, their obsession. And Swati is the nakshatra of freedom. Abraham Lincoln would have had a strong desire to be free and for others to be free, not just himself. So, he, did the Emancipation Proclamation. He was the one responsible for freeing slaves in this country, ending slavery. He had that obsession. People need to be free. And then, not only there, we also see his Saturn and his Sun are in Swati in the Navamsa chart. So we see very clearly he had strong karma with freeing people. Saturn's the masses. And Swati is the nakshatra of freedom. So we see that also very clearly. Once you know these nakshatra themes, predictions become very easy. You can say, things that you normally wouldn't be able to predict at all. You can never ignore nakshatras when you're talking about somebody's life, talking about their chart. Now, another thing I'm going to say, and this is a bit dark, but, we're not going to go too into it, but his Mars is in Chitra, conjunct that Rahu in Swati. So Chitra is a nakshatra tied to assassins. It's a nakshatra of weapons. It is the nakshatra of the assistant to the god of death, Yama. Chitra is, the deity associated with it is Chitragupta, the assistant of Yama, god of death. So, this nakshatra is very strongly tied to assassins, and Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. And why do people often get assassinated? It's when they aim to free others. Martin Luther King Jr. was also assassinated because he wanted black people to be free. Now, Chitra isn't just in Libra where Swati sits, it's also in Virgo. But this is one clear theme that we see repeating throughout human history. Alright, but that's what I wanted to talk about with Abraham Lincoln's chart and his life. Just talk about a few topics here. But that's how we see that Abraham Lincoln was either, gay, bisexual, or, if I only remembered what I was going to say, pansexual. Yeah. Alright, so that's what I have for y'all. And if you like my videos, be sure to like and subscribe. Really helps out me in the channel. If you'd like to get a Vedic Sidereal birth chart, a personal reading, or a consultation, the links to those will be in the description box and the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.